in order for me to communicate, in order for me to communicate to a horse, I have to be able to understand that they're, understanding what I'm saying. But with this Zoom, I can't see body language. I can't see squirming. I can't see, the eyes or anything. So I have to always assume that everybody is catching everything that we're saying. But I know that there are some people having difficulty. So this would be the time to bring it up. And it's, it's all open. We're here to help with, some of the really difficult things you're having with. So, yeah, it's learning a new language is like, in my mind, like years ago, it was to have each of you talk to either, let's say, a horse and do the training and try and get the, understand what the horse is trying to say, which is really hard. And that's what we do when we train a dog or something. We're training it to try and understand the English language, which sometimes you have to slap them in the head sometimes. So, but I can't do that with you guys. So I have to really pay attention to what you guys are, needing the help with. So, okay, with that, Mary, did you want to say anything?
Just reiterating that ask any questions tonight, and we will have assistance from my end, so you're not going to have to bear with this jittery, tinny voice. We'll have some help with the slides as well tonight. So thank you to Mardell for that.
So if anybody wants to go back to any of the slides that they're having issues with or sounds, we're pretty well open. These next two sessions are yours.
I might have missed it. I missed one of the sessions, but can you talk about where to put the emphasis when you're looking at a word and trying to pronounce it? Is there do you put the emphasis at the beginning of the word or in the middle, or does it matter?
The emphasis, or I call it where you go high in the word. Let's say the word for heart is kiswe. Kiswe. So the second last syllable goes up. The only exception to that are names. Like Mary, our word for Mary is Mashe. So the emphasis goes on the last. Like Edward is Itwas. Susan. So that's pretty well the only difference that I found. There may be more, but as far as I know, those are the two major ones where, where there's a difference. So
did you just say that in most words it's the second to last syllable and then names is the last? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, in the syllables, if you draw a little I call them doofy-doos underneath a syllable, like sit and then for sit so that way you know where the word breaks up. So can somebody just put up the vocal exercises and then for the CA, cha, chaka,
I'm in the midst of it. It's just bouncing right now. One moment.
I can pop them up if you want, Margot. Can you see that?
No, go to the one, keep going to the words. There we go. Yeah. So in what we just discussed, so the high syllable, I'm gonna call it the high syllable. If you would tell me which one, what letters are the high syllable in the first word? Anybody?
When it be the first syllable? Papa.
Papa. So the next one in PI,
Would it be the first syllable would be PI?
yeah,
Pie.
Pechak,
Pizza.
Pechak. And I hope too many of you weren't too disappointed and you guys didn't learn any swear words.
Yeah.
I think you guys got all the translations for these words. So for the PU, what letters would be the high note?
I would think Popotic. Popotic.
Yeah, the P, the second PU. Okay, for the next one,
Gayakawu. Gayakawu.
perfect. Kayakao. And the next one,
Wagi.
yeah, Waki. Next one,
Cooking.
yeah, cooking. Next one,
Akbamik. Akbamik. Akbamik.
akpamik. Akpamik. Next one,
Spooky.
spooky. A,
Spooky.
spooky. Yeah, good. Okay, next one,
Sawasku. Sawasku.
no, one more, back, one back.
Oyo.
Oyo, oyo. Okay, the next one. Someone said that already.
Sawasku.
Yeah, Sawasko. Okay, next one.
Sina. I like
Yeah,
that word.
Sina. That's a good one. And a lot of times when you hear a recording of the people talking, depending on their expression, they sometimes won't have that, but they will, you can tell that the storyteller's involvement in telling the story is by the way they do a lot of expression in the words that they're saying. So, okay, the next one,
Sukifmiet.
Yeah,
Sukifmiet.
Sukasmiyat.
Miet.
Tanuk.
Tanuk. Next one,
Tutu.
Ditto. Ditto.
Tutu. Tutu.
Okay, next one,
Tumu.
okay, next one, the hard T.
I can try it. So
Ashok. Ashok. The next one,
Tinamu.
Tenamo. Tenamo. Yeah, don't be afraid to spray with that hard T, like Tenamo. Just warn whoever you're talking to have their umbrella open. Okay, next one,
Tuksuhumik.
yeah, good one. Toxohomic. Okay, the next,
Wathnicket.
Yeah,
Wathnicket.
Wasnicket.
That's a fun one. What does that one mean again?
See, because, what's that?
What is Wathnicket? What does that translate to in English?
That one is for the storm to arrive.
Wathnicket.
So Wasnikitni means the storm has arrived. So if you added N-I to the end of that word, you've created a sentence. Well, Wasnikit, yeah, it says for the storm to arrive. And if you add N-I to that, you are saying the storm has arrived here. It's storming outside. So, okay, next one.
Wishinufus.
Yeah, Wishes Nofos.
Wishinufus.
So that is one of those combination, meaning a big star. And both those, the first part, wishes, and it's part of a word. And then nojos is part of the word for star. So, which is why it's so difficult to try and teach a language, in that it's always got different forms of rather than just saying the word for star is this. Akisnohos is star. So instead of saying a big Akisnohos, they went and combined the two, which is Nohos. So this is what my main group, my main language group is learning how to decipher these, I call them combination words, the more higher level words. So we have an exercise where we go, this would be the contraction of the word of two words. So they go from the contraction to the expansion. They tell me what two words are in there, and then they go back to the contraction. So this teaches them how to look at a word that they've never seen before and make out what they think that word is, what it is about. So we're not going to get into this with this group, but just letting you know that that's how that is. Wishes nohos. Okay, the next one.
Watch.
Yeah, what?
Happy. That's the next one. Happy.
Yeah, happy, happy.
Happy.
Hinna.
Yeah, hina.
Hunanuk.
Yeah, honanok.
Yaksomis. Yaksomis.
Yeah, yaksomis. Pretty good on that one.
Yichki. Yichki.
Yit,
Yichki.
yitski.
Yichki. Yichki.
Euclidwi.
Giswi. Yoke giswi. Okay, good. I pretty glad to hear that you guys were able to know what syllables, what letters made the syllable of each word, which is really good because for that sort of a time, not knowing the language or any base for understanding the language, you were able to break up the words according to the syllables that with the letters going together. And I can tell you that my test for all the learning ones learning the language is that if I had a fluent speaker that didn't know how to write the language and they were sitting beside me here, they would have understood every word that you guys said in that whole list. So which is really good. And that's my test, even with the other group. Every once in a while, I'll bring in a speaker, and they'll sit beside me. I warn the people that I'm bringing a speaker in, and then they and she's the one that monitors if she can understand what people are saying. That's their grade. That's how they get graded. So Yeah, so that was very good. Now, is there any other questions or problems you want to deal with?
On my paper, I have half for sunflower, but here it's happy. Sorry, I get very nervous. I was just wondering what the meaning of happy is.
Gamma?
What is it?
Gammas?
Yeah, it's a bulb found down in, I know in Montana, Camas. It's one of the root bulbs that they harvest down there. We don't have any Camas up here, so we would trade, let's say salmon for Camas is how, that would have been traded. Because they don't get salmon down there when we used to get the salmon here. And that would be one of the trade items that we would get camas from them because we don't have any up here. We only have the desk camas, and that's a different word for that. And Haas X.A. Wardell is the wild sunflowers you see in the spring. It's one of the first, big plants that comes up. That's another edible plant. The young leaves, you can use them for add them to your salads.
I really appreciate all the vocal exercise words that you chose, because when you're asking us to find words that teachers would use, the ones that are inside the classroom are amazing too. But these ones are ones that we are certainly likely to use when we're out with kids all the time, and it's so that being able to come back to it afterwards and go, oh yeah, I know this, I see this, and it's just so much more in my head. Because like you were saying, if you had both of them there, your brain is constantly kind of bumping back to the English all the time. And so this was really a helpful way to learn them.
Yeah, thanks. Because we in the past, like trying to teach a language to even our own members was quite a challenge. It still is a challenge. But I think once people, our members realize that the language isn't that scary, that they will show more of an interest. But that was one of the things that when I was developing my teaching method, it took me, I worked, I think 10 years on my own with the language. And I had a lot of time to think about what would be the best way to teach it. So I did, let's say, words like this. And then the progression was the first the sounds, like the cha, chi, chu. And then they would go into lesson plans of different words. Then I thought we need to go back one more step and use those sounds in the word, without the English, so that people could utilize that sound within a word. So like I say, the flow of it, the flow of the sound into the word. And then from that, then we went into sentences like verbs, and that's a totally different thing, which we won't be getting into because my group, my big group, I told them, okay, we're going to go into verbs, our verbs, our endings are all over the place. So I said, you guys are going to be coming for a ride. You just, listen to what I'm telling you and come along. And I think, I'm sure that I know Mary and Cindy are part of my bigger group. And I think it took them about 6, 7 lessons before finally the light bulb started turning on over their heads. Usually a big question mark. So for 6 weeks, and I told them, I said, that's fine. I said, don't feel bad if you get left behind or you think you're being left behind, just keep on coming. So eventually that's how we got through, like my experiment with the bigger group. That's how I sort of learned, okay, this is going to work this way. So it's been, and I don't think our nation council or even our language, people that are interested in learning the language and that, they're off on their own, doing their own thing. So we have to learn how to herd cats. You have to go and capture all the cats and bring them in. So yeah, that's good to hear, because just from the way you guys pronounce the words was really good. Like, I'm really impressed. You guys must have went to bed with all these wordless under your pillows.
It's funny. That's
Okay,
what.
any other, what's that, Duncan?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's what Nadine Hale, she's in your other group, and she had said, you've got to get Alfred connecting with teachers because he's got this amazing way of teaching that you won't, it'll take a number of weeks and then it'll finally, you'll be like, light bulb will be on. Can I ask, this is because I use this quite often. I just wanted to make sure I was saying this properly. So kisu quiet kapi niska, is that?
Yeah, Niskis.
Hello and welcome everyone. Yeah. Kapi niska. Kapi niska.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I know you had said previously that Invermere was Kiaknuk Fleet, which sounds familiar to Kiaknuk Fleet. Yeah. Could you say that again?
Kiaknuk Fleet. Yak Nok Seet.
Yeah. Knuk Fleet.
Yeah.
And if you were to say, I am from somewhere, what is that again? I know we have that somewhere in our notes, but I thought I'd ask.
Ho kaki kahi. Ho kaki kahi.
O kaki kate?
Kahi. Yeah, kahi. I come from, or I came from. Literally, it means where you are coming from, like physically. Like if you're walking, ho kaki kahi. So that's what that means.
But it could be said to introduce yourself from a place as well.
Yeah, I am from Invermere. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have problems with spelling some of the letters? We could work on some extra words pertaining to the, Bardell or the X or the hard Q.
Alfred, how discreet is the language? Like if we make a mistake and we have it, a letter off, are we likely to be saying another word? Is there a large vocabulary, or is it, pretty safe with what we're saying?
Okay. Yeah, the words that we are going to be teaching you guys are pretty good, are pretty safe words. I'm just trying to find here.
I think that's Katie's sneaky way of asking what the swear words are.
The
Alfred, last year in the language class, I think we were talking and you had said something with the word like gakin, like wolf, gakin. And it didn't mean wolf. It meant something else because the way you were saying it, it meant something different. And I know that happens sometimes, right?
yeah, because if people learn, let's say the word for wolf, which is gakin, gakin is wolf, and then it depends on the text or the context, I guess, of what you're saying. Hukati gakin, I saw a wolf. Now, I could say gakin akakikam, gakin akakikam, which is what you heard last year. And that means, where did you come from? Gakin akakikam. So when I had said that, the group heard wolf in there, and I didn't say wolf in there. It was the same two sounds, but they were meaning something different in the context of my sentence. So that is, and sometimes frustrating for learners because they think, oh, I heard wolf in there. And then I come back and I say, well, yeah, you did, but it really wasn't wolf. So it's really, I always am very aware to make sure that when anybody, even just hearing that word gakin is a big step for the learner to recognize those two sounds in their mind from what they learned was meaning wolf. And so I'm very aware that I do not say, oh, I didn't say wolf, it's not even in there. I don't know what you're talking about, but, I try and be very supportive because that's how people learn is like word by word, like sound by sound, that basically is how I teach the language. And it's really where most people aren't that sensitive as teachers, and where I am a little bit more sensitive to, someone saying, well, I heard wolf in there. And we always make it a joke if I make a paragraph up for the group to listen to, and they try and figure out what I'm saying. Some of them will hear different words, but that's the sounds that they're hearing. So that's really good. I was trying to find the word for I think it was one of our exercises we did the words for macaroni. Oh no, it was for axe. Okay, just give me a second here to go get my axe was akutas. Akutas. So we have akutas, which is axe. We have kotas, which is the same spelling, but with a hard Q, which means fat, like fat on an animal, like the lard. And then we have a similar word to that, kokas, which with a Q in there. So all those three words are so closely the same for like, especially kotas and kotas. And those are the same spelling, but the one sound is different. So you could be saying, you know, if you need a sentence to say, is your axe sharp? And you use the wrong word, and you would, if you use kotas, is your kotas sharp? That means, is your fat sharp? So that's how close that is. The other one was, we have a word, dynamo, T-I-N-A-M-U. Dynamo means it is dark, being dark, and dynamo, one with a soft T, the other one with a hard T. The other one is butter or lard, the one we have in our list. So yeah, those are fairly, one of the stories that this is how our elders deal with mistakes like that. And most of our younger generation have a hard issue or hard time dealing with being corrected. Okay. So my nephew, he said, our word for policeman is kakanho. Kakanho. Okay, that means has a badge, is basically what that means. And my nephew was talking, and he says, kakanho, kakanho, instead of kakanho. And so the elder that heard him say that, he said, she told him, no, kakanho, you just told me about a man with a limp. So kakanho is a man with a badge, or a person with a badge, a policeman, and kakanho is a man with a limp. So he learned that way. So, you know, it's those kind of corrections that, you know, the people learning the language have to be aware that they could make. And it's one of our big issues that we have to deal with is how to correct the younger people, you know, without them feeling, you know, bad or you know, foolish. And it's for them to get into a frame of mind of realizing that our language is so closely, the words are so close together that sometimes they will make mistakes. I made a mistake the other night. We had the conversation with the two, and because I'm still learning how to speak the language, I said something like, I was trying to find a ride home for the elder that I had here at the house that was on the conversation. So I said, oh, I want to know if you could, it was the way I said it translated, I want to know if you could bring back or bring your house back. is what I said. Instead of saying, if I want to know if, you can bring so-and-so back to her house. And the thing that I missed was the IS on the end of the one word. And that's how much of a importance that is. Rather than saying, bring the house back, you should bring her back to her house. So I didn't put the possession on the word house. So, but nobody caught that. So,
Alfred, how would we talk
Yeah.
about a policeman with a limp?
oh, you would say, translated in English, you would say, oh, he is a policeman. And then you would say, in the kakanjone. So that's how you would say that. So he was a policeman, he has a limp. And so,
Thanks.
yeah, and that's probably a good idea. Like I pick up ideas on how to make language fun, and that could be a big thing there, where you could put the two, let's say the word for axe and the word for lard in the same sentence. And Mara, are you still on here?
Hey,
That could be a way of looking for the tajo jokes.
hey, I was thinking that. I just wrote that down. It's going to help me with some word jokes.
Yeah. So what some of my other language group, well, one of them had suggested, they were saying, oh, I was thinking of knock jokes. And so, but they wanted them in Ktunaxa. So we have some of our participants that have learned the language working on some stuff like that. So that's how we are developing the language usage into fun things, into like really crazy ideas of how to learn a language. And then we have the more serious people that are working on apps. Like there's going to be apps coming out, which I don't do a lot of apps. So yeah, it's like I say, we've got a bunch of cats out there that we need to herd up to all work in the same direction with the language. Mary knows what I'm talking about. So. Okay, anybody have any issues with sounds?
Alfred, one thing I'm wondering about is the word Ktunaxa. It seems it's an important word to know. I remember you previously said at this level of skill, don't worry about the K and the T at the start because it's hard. And I guess I feel like most people that don't know say Ktunaxa.
Guys, where's my ant?
And I feel like I've improved my own speaking because I've replaced an English H with the Ktunaxa X in the end. But I'm kind of wondering if it's worth even trying to do the KT at the start properly.
Okay, the KT is kto. It's so quick, it's Ktunaxa.
Ktunaxa.
Kto. Yeah, kto. Yeah, the KT go closely together and really quick. Ktunaxa.
That almost sounds to me like a heart K at the front there, but it isn't, right?
No, it's I'm probably exaggerating a little bit so he can hear the K in there. Kto, kto. It's comes back from the bottom of my throat. Ktunaxa. Kto, kto, kto. The K is, it's not kto, it's kto. A very small K. Ktunaxa. Yeah, so like same as ktis for night, ktis me, where I said, it's acceptable for this group to say just me rather than ktis me. But I may be wrong. You guys probably could go with the ktis me. So the reason why the K is in there, it makes it a subject or a thing, a noun, or the K makes it into sometimes it changes a verb to a noun. This is why I'm the K at the front. Yeah, it's fairly hard to I would say describe the language because there's so many different levels of like me, M-I, and then just me it with no K on the end would mean last night. Me just me is last night. Not just me is tonight. And I'm not too sure how I say tomorrow night because there's little sounds that indicate, like past, present, future. And I haven't quite got that one yet. Because I look for patterns in the language. So I have to find patterns where they say, tomorrow is, the word kanmiyet is tomorrow. But then that doesn't help me with being able to say tomorrow night. Because night will be put together with another little sound to make it tomorrow night. So I haven't quite got to that part. I haven't found anything like that. Okay, anybody else?
What I'm finding really intriguing is ni, N-I, suyakuni nuku. Like that changes everything as an educator that I've been working with kids, because we work with young kids and we do number and we do greetings and we do animals. And so that hasn't really been a part of how we talk. But then when you talked about, is it wathnikit ni? Would the ni always be at the end, or sometimes it's at the beginning?
Well, the main thing is I call it finishes your thought or the word. Okay, it's a word finisher. I know I try to stay away from learning phonetic jargon because once you start using phonetic jargon, then you lose everybody, right? So I try and keep it as normal as possible. Okay, so the me is always added at the end of a verb when you're making a statement. So that tells me or tells someone that you've used a verb and that you're finished using that verb kind of thing. It's hard to explain. I never really looked at it that close. I just say that the ni is it ends sometimes it's not ni, sometimes it's just I, depending on uh, the ending of the verb. To like woke at, to see, wokati is how you wouldn't say wokatni. Wokati is how that would end with a ti. And the verb upcha would be upchane, would end with ni. So it was a very hard concept to teach to the group. That's why it was very challenging to make sure that I was getting people to understand what I was trying to teach them. So yeah, that's the NI is I would say part of a sentence structure. And it's funny, we have some I've learned over the years that in Ktunaxa rules are meant to be broken because people try to put rules in place. When the language was first written, they wrote a little book with like rules for grammar, I think it was called. But it really didn't make a lot of sense because there were so many different endings and thought processes that went into the language. And so we have some of our young people. I heard one young lady talking about she was going to be doing research on creating rules for the language. And I just tied my tongue in a knot because because there is really no set rules in Ktunaxa because there are patterns you can use for different words. There is ways of expressing what your thought process is, and there's words that you cannot use for that thought process. Like I see you, who woke at Disney, and tikat is also means to see. It's a verb, another verb that means to see or to look at. I can look at you, but I can't tikat you. Okay, you understand that concept? I can use the verb woke at to say I saw you, but I can't use the verb tikat to say I saw you. And they mean the same idea. You can look at a sore on my arm. You can cheek at that, and you can also look at that sore. But if I saw you in the mall, in the store, I could use the verb look at to see you, but I couldn't use the verb cheek at. So there's some different rules there that it don't make any sense. But I'm always pushing the boundaries. I like to get my cousin Dorothy. She she likes to, she's the language expert. And every once in a while, I'll just push the boundaries a little bit just to get her goat. She tried to blame me for a word. I can't remember where at a meeting the other day, and she goes and she pipes up and says, "Alfred, is that one of your words?" And I said, "No." So she knows we're just exploring the language with, all the different groups I'm working with. So
Alfred, can I ask you, so to say thank you, it's Sukani, right?
that's
But
what I'm pushing.
okay, I've also heard from classes here at Yakinuki, they'll say Ktunaxa. Is that a phrase that
Yeah.
you're?
That is a phrase that when the elders at the time were talking about translating the different terms like thank you, because we never had a word thank you or that expression in Ktunaxa. So that's a new expression. Hunaknaknene, for me, it means I nod my head. And then I'm thinking, okay, so what does that really have to do with saying thank you? Where Sokni means it is good, it's done, it is good, it's done. The other one you may not have heard is a lot of people are using Hosokis Kokni. Did you hear that term before?
Yeah, I've heard that term also, yeah.
Yeah, that one, there's a lot of things that happened in the translation from the English to give that, trying to indicate how the English language, says, well, we say thank you. So we had to figure a way of saying that in Ktunaxa because we never said stuff like that before. It wasn't that we were rude, but there were very, I would say, different nuances to indicate that you were happy. And Hosukes Kokni was usually indicated that they were like your spirit was lifted up. You were happy, your spirit was lifted up. That's what that really meant, Hosukes Kokni. And now everybody's using that for thank you, which loses its quality. Rather than saying, like, if you were, say, stuck out in the forest somewhere and your car broke down and you're worried about, very few people are out there. And then all of a sudden someone shows up very unexpectedly. That is a Hosukes Kokni moment. Okay, that's when you would say Hosukes Kokni, because it lifted your spirit right up to where you are relieved that you're able to, you're going to get home safe, kind of thing. So that's what, and so I've been pushing the term Sokni for thank you.
Alfred, I've also heard Sokani, but Hosokani, like really like using Hosokani as another way of saying thank you. Is that something you're familiar with? Rather than like meaning like I'm very thankful, Hosokani? Is that something? I've heard that before.
I've never heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So,
good to know.
yeah, I always wonder where people, you know, like with the greeting for Nara, what was that greeting again? That oh, how are you? Right? Isn't that what it was, Nara?
See,
Okay, yeah. Mary and I had a discussion about 2 weeks ago, because in what we're using for how are you, we're using Ktunaxa, which is one of the terms we're using here, right? In this group, how are you feeling? And when you meet someone, you know, in English, you say, oh, hi, how are you doing? Right? You're not expecting them to give you their health record, right? It's just an opening greeting, a door opener for discussion. So I said one time, and I said, you know, we shouldn't be using Ktunaxa for that. And so Mara, I think it was you, or brought it up to Vi. She was Vi in the Vancouver group, language group. So Vi goes and message. This is how I cause, like, stir a lot of stuff up, right? Begins with S and ends with a T. So Vi messaged me on Facebook and says, oh, I hear from so-and-so that you don't agree with the term Ktunaxa for, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I said, I don't, because, you know, when you use the term Ktunaxa, that means you're asking someone you're interested in their health, right? In our language, that means I'm asking you, how are you feeling? How's your health? Kind of thing. And so I told her, I said, it's up to us language speakers to look at when someone says, how are you doing? You know, that's just an opener, that just sort of, you don't really want to know how you're doing. And so, and I told her, I said, you know, I would prefer to use a term in our language which would translate to how is your thoughts laying? You know, that would be the closest that we could come up to with how are you doing? And then so with this new sentence that you brought up, Patty, was I'd never heard that one before. And so one of the issues that I asked why was when they see in the car, when our people first see in the car, they call it, it just goes anywhere, or it just goes. That's what they call the car in our language. And so I was thinking about that word, and I was thinking, how did the whole nation agree to use that term, "Ktunaxa," for car, you know, without having a big debate? You know, so then I'm thinking, okay, so how am I going to be able to get this, how are your thoughts laying idea for conversation opener? You know, and that's, so that's what I was trying to do. And it was very interesting conversation with Bob, because he said, well, I'm gonna have to pass that by Dorothy, her sister, who I call the language sergeant. So it's really interesting. And we keep on, like I said, we keep on pushing. Like if I were in a balloon, big rubber ball balloon, I would be constantly trying to push out as much as I could out the sides. So trying to get our people, our speakers, to really start looking at different things a little differently, you know, rather than being in their safe space, I would say so. Yeah, so that term that you said, who, what was
Well,
it? Who,
I heard it on First Voices, and no thank you comes across as waha husukani. Does that sound right? Waha husukani. And that's how it is on First Voices. And I can't remember where I heard husukani, but maybe it's like hasuthukani, or maybe that's where it's coming from. I'm not sure. But I won't use it anymore.
so you said waha,
Waha hosukani, like no thank you. Waha, waha. That's how I heard it on First Voices. Waha hosukani.
okay,
No
so
thank you.
waha husuku.
Wa,
No,
so,
I'm good. Yeah, so that means no, I'm good.
no, I'm good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that would be
that's one of the it's one of the places I never go on as First Voices.
uh-oh.
So I get all my information from people like you, which is good because, you know, we've been trying to figure out how to correct some of those words that are on there,
Mhm.
and we haven't been able to find out yet. We don't. That was done years ago. I don't know what year that was all done, but that was a time when, like you said, when our speakers were trying to meld the Ktunaxa into how like translation to English, almost word for word, or you know, there was no, I'm going to say, really deep thought into what they were doing at that time. So yeah, it's although I've got all of the words on First Voices printed out, they're just in a binder that I never look at. So there
Alfred,
is some good stuff. Yeah.
are there kind of written resources that we could access that you think are valuable? Not to say you don't think First Voices is valuable, but are there others that we could consider using too?
I believe some of the school districts have some resources, some are books, and I can't remember what the other ones are. We've been trying to get the copies of them to see if we can update them, but then again, we just talk about it, and there's no one doing it. But I think that my language group is going to be the group that's going to just get after that and get it done. We're not affiliated with the Nation Council or anything. That's how this lessons start. Well, this lessons for this group here started from my other language group. And so the next one or two sessions, if there's going to be two sessions, they're going, Nara and some of the other group are going to do the instructing. I won't be part, I'll just be in the background. They need extra help. So there is some resources out there. We have, I know we've talked about it for the last, I'm going to say 6 years with our school district here in Invermere, but nobody's made a first step. I always say that first step is the most important. We can talk all we want, but if we don't take that first step, it's never going to get done. So nobody's taking that first step. I know there's quite a few resources out there, but I'm not too sure what they are.
It's a big topic that I had emailed with Mara a little bit ago in ways that maybe educators could advocate for having district positions that are Ktunaxa language speakers. Is that like a big can of worms, or like, because like the one thing that this is, it's a very, the language is very fluid too. And so we might be getting information that is 2 or 3 or 4 years out of sync with where you guys are with coming to understanding with language. Like when you think about just the evolution of the word thank you, which is actually an English word and not like like at some point in time, that's not, simply could have just said, well, we don't have a word for that, so we don't need to come up with a word for that kind of thing. But like even just that whole progress of that, the use of that word, if I go back to my school now and say, okay, like these are some terms that are just better suited to this, there'll be people that are very attached. And so just having somebody at the district level who's you know, that there's a position there that is Ktunaxa language. We have you know, we have good people at SD5. We're lucky to have Faye and Joe in that ABED coordinator role. But the language is something that I would much rather have somebody that I go to and say, okay, I have this question, this question, this question, and I know that their time is being honored, that their time is being is a part of the role that is within the school district. But that might not be what you guys want. So I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on see, my focus is with trying to get the language out in the air. You know, and I've always stuck to that focus, because if we end up really focusing on the written, which is what a lot of the young people are wanting to do, is stay on the written, they're never going to speak it. So it's better to speak it and then do the writing. So Mara and Cindy will understand that that's my push, is that I don't care how you sound if you're learning the language, you know, as long as you're trying and I can help you with, you know, the sounds. And that's why I've been very clear with the English K and the English I, you know, and yet some of our younger people are interested in the language are using the English K and the English I. You know, like, you know, one example, there's one here that's went out today, I think it was this morning. Our word for coffee is kapi, kapi, K-A-P-I, kapi. And just the young people are putting out videos of them using the language. And this person puts kapi, you know, like I say, if fluent speaker heard her saying that, the fluent speaker would be wondering, what is she saying? You know, kapi, you know, and so that is the I'm going to say the what do you call those? They're not ripples, but they're big rapids that we have to deal with in learning the language. We have to get those rapids down to smooth, where everybody's all on the same page. So when that's where my mind goes to a rapid, when I hear beginner speakers that want to be instructors using the wrong sounds, I go to that place where mine is just, you know, bouncing, because it's cafe, not cafe. And to, you know, the issue is, you know, I don't feel I can just go in and say, well, they're saying that wrong because it's cafe, not cafe. You know, they're going to take very big offense at that, because they're not used to my way of teaching. You know, they think I'm being mean. So I just stay the heck out of that lane. I stay in my own lane.
Alfred, it's Cindy. I did find one thing with when COVID hit, a lot more resources became accessible with wanting to access Ktunaxa language. And the Akamnik school, if you go on their school site, had some resources that were available in pronunciation and some of the words, but I don't know where it's been vetted, but it was available through the website through the school.
Okay.
Have you looked at any of
It's-
that?
No, I haven't. And it's Akam.
Sure. What is the nick?
Nick
School.
means the people of. Nick, N-I-K, Nick, Nick is the people of Akam.
And what would the school be called?
I'm not too sure. We have two words for school. The place where you are taught to write, it translates. Kakchamnamki is one word. And the other one is Yakas. I just wrote it down the other day. Yakas Itkiktiamki. Yakas Itkiktiamki. That's where the place where people are taught. So there's two words for school in that way. Again, that's a new term. That's a new concept. So because Cindy's in my group, I try and get them to say the words properly. And then that it's their job. Now it's Cindy's job. If she hears someone else say akam instead of akam, that's her job to correct them. That's how my spider's web works. That's how our whole concept is. I teach someone something, they have their own group that they deal with the language. That's their spider's web. And that's for them to teach that, their connections to saying things properly. So then all you that are participating in this, if you hear Joe Pierre is the worst for saying akam. Okay. So you guys can say akam, akam.
Next time,
Don't tell them where it came from.
next time I see Joe, I'll say, "Sorry, Joe, you're not the chief of Akam. You're the chief
Akam.
of Akam."
Yeah, it's quite interesting, and it'll put them on their toes. I mean, this is probably what we need is, people that are going to be saying, telling him stuff like that they're going to be really on their toes to make sure they, say it properly. Because I'm one for that we have to be saying the Ktunaxa language properly in its original form, rather than changing it. So I like to see his face whenever you tell him that. Any other questions or? Anybody having a hard time with the cent sign sound? Or the X?
I'm having a hard time when somebody speaks writing down it correctly. Like, so akutas, I see that for the axe, but if you had said that, I might have done a QU, a KU, a CU. I don't know how to know which one when I listen to it. I don't know how to spell it, given those options. I don't know if you have any hints on how to delineate the CU, QU, KU.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, you have to be bold and say, can you say that again? This time slowly. Okay? You won't believe when I was learning how to write the language, the elders I was working with, they would be saying a word and I'd say, they'd have to repeat it at least 3 times sometimes before I would get it, because I was listening very closely with ko, the ko, kotas. So then your ear starts picking up that. But you have to say, can you repeat that? So then I would say it again, and then your ear will start picking up that sound that you're, missing, you're mistaking. So that's the only way you're going to do that. So.
Thank you.
Because there was 2 words, there was akotas and akotas. You hear the 2 different sounds of the Q? Yeah. Yeah, so that's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's what these 2 sessions are about, is to refine, if anybody is having difficulty with something, just to bring it up and ask, because that's the only way you're going to, learn it and make the distinguishment between, the sounds. Like I say, I learned that from teaching, like training horses, because I had to learn horse language. I had to learn what they were doing, reacting to what I was doing, to whether they understood it or not. So I'm very open to, listening to where people are having difficulty. So.
Alfred, can you teach us how to say you're welcome? Or is that like a thing? Like, do you say thank you and then someone says you're welcome? Or is it just like sukni and then you're done?
Yeah, usually it's so clean you're done. You could say yuwa, which means go away. Or yeah, it was just so clear and that's it. For some reason, so I thought somebody asked me that the other week about you're welcome. That's why I was sort of sitting here trying to think of. Yeah, that would be about it, basically. So Canadian.
Is there a word for expressing gratitude? A little bit different than thank you, more being grateful for something?
That's where Husuk's Okni would come in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm pushing for the word thank you to be Silkney. So Hosukokne really means you are coming from, I call a lifted spirit. You know, whatever action or assistance a person had helped you with, if you were really needing that help at that time, and that help lifted your spirit up, that's Hosukokne.
Alfred, what about a version of my heart is happy?
Um, the closest I can come up to would be Hosokamas. Nisne, which means I'll put it in perspective. Okay, in the legend, the there's a story about a, a chief took his band, his group of people away, and they left two kids because I don't know why the two kids were left behind. Two children were left behind. So the chief led them away from them and said, "Don't tell the kids where we're going. We're leaving them behind." So those two kids ended up left behind. The grandmother, after a certain length of time, the grandmother sent her dog back and told the dog, "You go back and see if those kids are still alive yet. They're probably dead by now." So the dog went over there, and the two kids seen the dogs. So the term in our legend is Sukis Okamashni. Sukis Okamashni means they celebrated or they were happy, they rejoiced together. So that could be a term for you're welcome. That's what the closest where it means the two let's say the dog and the children were so happy to see each other that they celebrated or had that idea where they were happy to see each other, kind of thing.
Can you repeat that?
Okay, I can spell it. SUKI Bardell, hard Q, that's a Q with a apostrophe above it. U M, oh sorry, Q, hard Q U K, Sukis Kok, and then KAM A Bardell NI. Sukis Kokamasni. And I added and S-N-I on the end of that. Sukiskokamasnisne means I am celebrating with you, or I am happy, with you. I'm joyful with you, kind of thing. So did you get that? Can someone repeat that back to me? S-U.
S-U-K-I, barred L, Q, hard Q with apostrophe on the top. U-K-A-M-A, barred L-N-I.
And then S-N-I on the end. And that makes it a statement, a finished statement.
Okay.
Sukiskokamasnisne means I am celebrating with you, or I am happy with you.
Is there two Ks? Hard Q, U, K, K, A, M, or just one K?
Yeah, it could be both. Yeah, it could be both. Sukiskokamasne or masisne is how I would use two Ks in there. But one K is all right too. It looks like we're just about out of time here. Are there any more questions or thoughts?
Kesuk Jilthmiet.
So just me, it.
Kisuk, kismiet.
Sukani, kisuk kwithmiet.
Sukni.
Dachta. See you later. Dachta.